Good morning. It's a beautiful morning. Just want to jump on here and share a little story. Because when you share stories of your life, you leave a legacy. Not only do you leave a legacy, you can go over some things and share some things. Okay? Got a little makeup on here this morning. Sometimes foundation can be good in a way where it actually can help you with the sun and different things kind of covering you. Besides the fact that you just feel a little bit better. Check out this shamrock. I got that shamrock in March, and it's just helping me to learn to take care of something. It's comes out on St. Patrick's Day, and really makes you feel good if you can take care of a plant that's really sensitive. This plant is super, super sensitive. I like that. Kind of reminds me of me, but in a way it doesn't. Sometimes sensitive people end up being pretty tough if you get to know them, you know. A little flicker can kind of make you relax or make you feel like it, you know. Like if you don't have a campfire, that could be it, or just something cool. So anyway, today I want to briefly talk about these things that happen to us, you know, about being the baby of my family. Let me tell you what. Being the baby of my family is a different role. Okay? When we was little, I'm just going to jump right off. First of all, I want to talk about, get this makeup on here. Thank you, Lord. Just to kind of wake up here a little bit. I want to talk about children, okay, and how they, what they grow up and what they see and how they react and who they want to be like. Because, you know, everybody knows you've seen that child with the towel tied around his neck and he's Superman, right? Or the little girl that wants to be a princess. Anything like that, there is an effect there. So if you see your children doing different things and acting different ways, you know, that's because of what they've seen. So long story short, my story, Miss Cool, my story. I was a young girl when I met my father in Florida. Boy, it was a different kind of place. I remember being tough even when I was little. That's about 12. Close to 13. Florida's a different place. You can visualize all the moss hanging, dark. Different kind of air, different kind of smells, good smells. Water, sand. I mean, I'm talking about this place. You dig a hole, it's going to sink unless you put a hose in there with water. Then the water will keep the sand back because it's a sandbar. A lot of times, you know, if you want to replant a tree or flowers and all. Just things are different in different places, and they're supposed to be, right? So we can learn different things. So anyway, long story short, you know, both my parents smoked. They weren't the healthiest parents. I love them. But here's a little story. One night, me and my sister were up. Of course, I was the brave one. She wanted a cigarette, and so did I. So my dad was in this room, and he smoked Kent's. It's an old school cigarette that are white. And so as my sister stayed at the corner of the door there, you know, looking and peering in, I tiptoed up to my dad's bed. He was snoring and asleep. And the Big Ben was ticking, kind of like a clock about this size right here. And as it was ticking really loud in a quiet house, I tiptoed up to his bedstand. And there was his wallet, his watch, and that pack of cigarettes. So as I tipped him over and got him out and looked at my sister, you know, you could hear our hearts just beating. I got the cigarettes. She was waiting for me. So when I got the cigarettes, I came back and we went outside and had a few. Mind you, there's like armadillos, there's like mosquitoes. It's kind of cool in Florida. So, sure enough, guess what we decided to do? Well, if you went down to this graveyard that wasn't far from my dad's house, you could call him Dad or you could call him Pa. But another thing I want to tell you, if you have problems with your parents, excuse me, a lot of times people grow up and their parents, they don't want to say Mom and Dad. So they refer to them by their first name. You know, it's okay to do that if you've got issues with your parent and you want to show them that you don't respect them. So you go by their first name. Or maybe you haven't forgiven them, or you're still angry, or you have the right to do anything you want. But for this night, that was my dad, my pa, whatever you want to call him. Got the cigarettes. Me and my sister went out and had a few smokes. We decided to go down the graveyard. It wasn't far from my dad's house. I'd say maybe 2 blocks. This graveyard, let me tell you what, had the metal gates, the tombs that come up off the ground, that you could stand up on top of in Florida. They do these type of graves down there that are kind of like if you open up an old wrought iron black gate, inside could be a whole family. And then you could sit up on top of these, gosh, what do they call them? Anyway, I could find out, but I know the name, but right now I'm so excited to tell you the story. So they had all like, you could see it at night with the moss hanging and all these different, you know, little lambs on top of graves if it was a baby, or big kind of, are they crypts? Is that what they are? My goodness. Well, I guess they are crypts. So that you could sit up on top of them. It was a big piece of marble. Okay. Kind of like a bed up on top, a casket, but square, marble with names. And you'd have to open up these, you know, squeaky gates that were around them. The place was eerie at night. That's all I got to say. Lots of leaves on the ground. Maple leaves, moss hanging. Just the whole picture you would think. Nobody would want to be there at night, right? Except an old owl or things creeping around that don't know it's a grave. So there we go. Boom. We start going down this grave because they said if you get up on top of one of these crypts, someone will grab your feet. And of course me, I want to be tough. I want to go there. I want to go with my sister. She don't got to get scared. Well, I'll go with you, Paula. So we go down there and we get inside there. And I stand on top of the crypt and we're looking around. Well, sometimes parents can do things. My dad woke up that night, but we didn't know it. My dad went down there. And my dad hid. And in his own way, he tried to teach us something, and he did. All of a sudden, we heard somebody coming after us. And so he started running. I could hear the keys in his pocket. And I could hear, like, the change in his pocket. And I could hear his feet coming at us. And me and my sister were like, let's get out of here. So we ran home as fast as we could. We never did see him, but he got real close hiding. And he never said who he was, but it was my dad. And he was going to teach his girls a lesson, wasn't he? Not to go down to that graveyard and stand on that crypt late at night because something could happen to us. So that was the end of that story. But he never did tell us, but we did learn. You know, there's some good things about our parents. We just have to try to remember. We have to forgive, don't we? So me and my sister, we didn't go back to that grave. We just walked by and stayed away and thought, you know what? We got chased that night. We had to learn a lesson. Sometimes things are spooky and they're fun to be scared and spooky, and you have to learn growing up. But I'm thankful for that night. My dad chased and ran after us and wanted us to know not to be out in the dark. Okay? So there's lessons in life. You can understand them. You can look back and you can smile. But today, it's a good idea to just know that lessons are taught to us in one way or another. When your children see you smoke, you might go get a cigarette. When your children see you argue, when your children see you do different things, they're going to imitate you. If you take them to church and be thankful, you can teach a child to be thankful without going to a church, okay? So let me first jump off on that. You can take a child to a river and say, where does a river come from? I like to play games with my grandchildren, and I've done it since my children were little, and it's really fun to make them think fast, make a choice, and see what they're feeling. So I'll randomly tell my grandchildren, I love to play with Tilly. She's 6 years old. Once people start hearing the other grandkids that grandma's doing that, well, they want to join in. So I'll start saying, Tilly, would you rather be an ant or an elephant? And then we'll start slow. Well, I'd rather be an elephant. Would you rather be a fire or water? Would you rather be dirt or would you rather be a cake? So you can go take both things and then you can get real smart with them and say, well, would you rather be a flower or a seed? Would you rather be a butterfly or the ocean? Would you rather be the wind or would you rather be the rain? No matter what you say, they're going to choose and they're going to pick. And their minds are going to go a little bit faster because they're thinking too. And then when you're all done, you learn a lot, don't you? I learned a lot in that graveyard that night. I learned that my dad did care about me and my mom did care. But they had a lot of their own issues. And a lot of people smoked back then. And there was a lot of racism in Florida. I learned early on when we went down to the show, the black people sat on top. I'm 66 years old now. I learned when I got there to Florida and my dad, he said, Pamela, you can't sit on the fence. I go, what do you mean? Well, you have to be on one side or the other, and you sit on the fence. I sat on the fence because I had a black friend named Yvonne Walker. I never could go to her house. But when I seen her at school, we were friends. Things are different down in the South back then, and they're still today. Racism is alive and well. So you can break some of those chains and learn behaviors from families and different places and be willing to love others, and share your experiences. But for children, if they see things going on, then they're going to want to imitate it, or and the good. So sometimes children can actually grab onto books and stories and things and say, I wish I was like that. I want to be like that. So let's teach children, whether you're in a Bible or whether you're in just life or a story or a river or talking about how a tree grows and what about the roots and what's inside of us, and to know the difference. It's Miss Cool saying, teach your children some good things, love them, embrace them, and try to do it in a way where you could draw up a story out of a deep well of your life that taught you and you learned. And you can share it today. It's Miss Cool saying, peace.